All right. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. We are now streaming live. Sometimes it takes a minute or two to roll over onto Facebook and YouTube, but we are now officially live. My name is Sabria Mills, and I'm the host of the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. I would like to welcome everybody here. As you guys join, please send your greetings. I can see your comments here. But again, welcome to this very special edition, important episode that we have here tonight. We're so excited. I'm so happy to be back with you guys. Please give your greetings. Wa alaikum salam, Saudi. I can see you. Welcome. Okay. I am so humbled for this episode. As you guys know, we are on a season break. We ended season 2 about a month and a half ago. And we are, hey, everybody, I'm seeing your comments. Nice to see all you guys. Welcome back. We are not yet launching season 3, but we had some important things happen in the news and in our country. And we wanted to make sure we bring you guys an important episode. So this is our special edition episode dedicated to our sister, Brianna Taylor, titled Honoring Her, Will Justice Ever Be Served for the Black Woman? And I am joined here today with and humbled by this amazing panel. And I want to introduce my sisters. Welcome, everybody. Good to see all of you guys. I love seeing you guys comment, some familiar people returning. So I am here. I'm your host, Sabria Mills, and I am humbly joined with my leader. I call her that. She probably not going to like it, but Ziada D, my co-host, she's returned. A lot of this is from her, the stomach of her belly and what she feels passionate about. A lot of times she brings that to me and we kind of collaborate and work together to bring you issues that really matter in our community and issues that are really about fundamental change. So I'm joined with my co-host, Sister Ziada Dean. And as you guys know, Ziada is a Black entrepreneur. She's a Black woman. She owns her own shop out there in Maryland and Baltimore. She's also an author of the Natural's Guide to More Tresses, Less Stresses. And I always rock her mug. She has that for sale. We have to support our Black women, and she's doing the daggone thing. So I wanted to just welcome Ziada Dean to the show. Welcome, Ziada.
Thank you so much. I am humble. Thank you. I'm humbled by your words. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. And like Sabria said, this is a special one to honor our sister, Breonna Taylor, as well as everyone who is doing the much needed work for change. And I came to Sabria and spoke to her about us having a podcast to honor Brianna and talk about the events that happened with this case, as well as just how we as Black women are feeling. Many of us are tired, we are exhausted, and we wanted to hold space for our Black women to give them the opportunity to check in on them and make sure that they are okay, as well as for them to speak what is on their heart at this moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Ziada. And I wanted to just go ahead and introduce our panelists. I want to start here with an amazing woman here, Sister Tyra Thomas Walker. She's, our freedom fighter out there on the grounds in Kentucky, Louisville. But I wanted to humbly introduce her, and this introduction doesn't really do justice for the work that she's doing. So we are super humbled to have you here on the show, Sister Tyra. Sister Tyra is a teacher in Jefferson County. She's a member of the Kentucky Education Association. She is the co-chair of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Oppression, as well as the elected officer for Jefferson County Teachers Association. She is a woman that is literally on the ground. She knows exactly what's happening out there in Louisville, Kentucky. She knows the beating heartbeat of our Black women, especially those connected so closely to Breonna Taylor. Sister Tyra, we are so humbled to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry. An honor and a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, for the sake of just, one time, can we just see your shirt for a minute? Because I just, we got to just, There we go. Absolutely. We stand with Black women. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, sis. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce our next panelist, which is, I'm humbled as well, Sister Amanda Brown. We are happy and humbled to make sure that we have someone here that can help get us through tonight, right? She is a licensed professional counselor associate. She's trained in EMDR to treat trauma. She specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and other therapies to help clients find relief and reach their identified mental health goals. She's also a Louisville, Kentucky native. She's very much also on the ground and very aware of what's happening there, keeping our brothers and sisters grounded mentally and emotionally at this time. Sister Amanda, we salute you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am honored and humbled to be here. I love what you guys do, and I'm glad to be on this panel.
Thank you so much, Sister Amanda. We appreciate you. All right. And definitely last but not least, my sister, man. Listen, y'all don't even know. Stacy be behind the scenes, right? That's my sister right there. But Stacy, she's also a Kentucky native. She has a passion for advocating for the Black community right there in Louisville, Kentucky. She's been a big part of this discussion, especially with Black Muslim women out there in Louisville. She's a current student at GSU and a dynamic advocate for social change. She's my sister. She's helped facilitate getting the rest of these beautiful panelists on. Thank you so much, Stacy, for being here. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. No problem. I'm humbled and honored to be here as well.
Thank you. All right, ladies. So I am so happy. We're going to get started right away on this discussion. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute my beautiful sisters right here. Okay. All right, ladies. So basically, we wanted to really get into this discussion. And, this is, like I said, a really important topic. I've been so emotional since a lot of these things have happened. And we know about the verdict that happened out there in Louisville, Kentucky, that's really polarized this country and, sent people on the grounds around the world. We're going to get into a lot of this. Before we do, I wanted to just give a very short clip synopsis of what happened to our sister Brianna. It's about a minute long. I'm going to share it here on the screen. So please bear with me as I share it, because I wanted to just give life in a very summative way to the synopsis of the case with Brianna, and then we'll have our dynamic discussion with our sisters. Thank you so much, you guys, for honoring us with listening to that clip. We wanted to give honor to our sister. I'm joined back now with our panelists, and I wanted to get right into a discussion. I'm going to launch with my sister Ziada Dean as she goes into a discussion in regards to this topic.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. So the first question is for everyone. How are you all feeling, and how are you processing the recent events? Whoever would like to go first, you could express how you've been feeling right now, which many of us are feeling is overwhelmed and shocked. We would love to hear how you all are feeling and how you all are processing everything, especially being on the ground right now. How are you all feeling?
Oh, I'll go first. Overwhelmed, exhausted. It was a shock to the system on Wednesday. I was there at the square when we were listening to the announcement. I don't know how I'm processing it yet because it's so much that really needs to be processed. And I'm not going to lie, we've been saying, and we said after this, we're going to need counseling. Somebody said during this, we need counseling. So not knowing, we're just angry, and very angry that Wednesday and the day after. And then I think there was a little calm, but just shock. And I think we're still trying to process the outcome of everything.
Definitely understandable. I can only imagine what you're feeling at this moment, especially being on the ground, protesting every day. I can only imagine the raw feelings that you have every day. I definitely commend you for what you are doing. Amanda or Stacy?
Amanda, sorry, Amanda, you were muted. Start from the beginning.
Okay. You say, how I feel. It's been difficult to process because we don't get a break. That's the thing. It's like as soon as something happens or there's some hope built, immediately something else happens, and it's very difficult to process. I've been getting the same sentiment from friends, from clients, and just for myself being very active, involved in this whole situation. It's overwhelming, stressful, and definitely difficult because it's just one thing after another.
Yeah, I agree. It's overwhelming. It's heartbreaking. There is a sense of shock, but no surprise, right? I do feel like that it's a sense of, I know it's going to sound strange, but a sense of hope because we're forced to have these conversations, right? We're forced to come to the forefront and be real intentional about what we're talking about. So I'm going to say I feel inspired. It may sound strange, but I'm going to be quite honest. I feel inspired by conversations and, the different circles I've been able to participate in, that we have these painful conversations that need to be had. As far as the verdict is concerned, like I said, it's no surprise, especially for Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm sure Amanda and Tyra can attest to that. It's no surprise. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate just you guys, just honoring you guys and having a moment to really just ask you, are you okay? Are we okay? Because as I shared before, as Black women, sometimes we bear the burden of always having to be strong and carry the load for our communities, for our children, for our men. And there's an expectation that comes with the Black woman. And I wanted to just delve deep into that. In honoring Brianna, we honor ourselves, we honor each other. In our experiences, and we want to change the narrative around Black women and what, like I said, the burden that we've been expected or asked to carry as literally as human shields, as our sister Brianna. I deeply apologize about the lack of sound, you guys, but I did want to take a moment to give honor to the case since you guys didn't hear some of the audio. I know you got to see some of the visual from it. But I did want to ask, and I'm going to direct this first at Tyra, but then anybody else can chime in. just in given a moment of Tyra's, in reference to Brianna's story, can we give some light to a little bit of who Brianna was and what really happened on March 13th?
Well, I learned a lot from my daughter. My daughter, you all saw, that was her friend. They work together in neuro restorative. So what I've learned from our daughter is she's always been a hard worker. And neuro restorative, let me explain, is a place where it's where they house people with traumatic brain injuries, and they have someone that cares for them 24 hours a day. So she worked at neuro restorative, and she also worked at TARC. So she was a hard worker, because y'all know she was a Louisville Metro EMS, and she also worked in the emergency room as an emergency room tech during COVID-19. And so just from the conversations with my daughter, she was always a hard worker. She was nice, and she was funny. So just things, just a kid, and I say kids because she's my daughter's age. What I've learned from her mother, she was always smiling. Her family, that she was always fun, and always, it was just a pleasure to be around her in the night of March 13th. And I'm looking away because I get a little emotional, because I woke up that morning on March 13th, and I'll tell you why I'm getting emotional. March 13th was our last day of in-person teaching. So I saw the news. I saw what happened. My daughter called me later that morning and told me, "Mama, that was my friend that got murdered by the police officer." Well, as time went on, it kind of slipped my mind. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do school, how we're going to do this NTI. My grandmother passes away, and everything just starts to unfold. And then I'm like, this comes back to light. Like, what happened to her? And a no-knock warrant. They did not announce themselves. And there was dozens of neighbors who said that they did not hear them announce themselves, and they broke into her home. Us under the assumption that there was drugs and money. Now, my thing is, if you have a no-knock warrant, you putting police, the police officers in danger, and you're also putting the residents in danger, which is what happened. And because when you come through somebody's door, you should have evidence that there is, you're gonna walk away with something. They walked away empty-handed. You're gonna walk away with something. And they did not. And they assumed that she was there by herself. If they did their investigation thoroughly, they would have known that she worked 2 jobs and that she was no longer dating the guy that they were looking for. But evidently they thought they had who they needed, and we're going to go get this no-knock warrant. They used a battering ram, entered her apartment. And if you all heard the 911 tape from Kenny, they didn't know what was going on. They thought they were being robbed. So yes, he did fire 1 shot, and they fired about 35 rounds into her apartment. 1 fatally shooting her is what they said. We still don't know. I would like to see the autopsy report. I want the grand jury's transcripts. I want all of that so that I can make my own determination, and so that the community can make their determination about what really happened that night with Breonna Taylor.
Powerful. Ladies?
So at the end, I just want to end with Breonna Taylor was a hardworking female who wanted the best and wanted to provide assistance, that wanted to become a nurse and to continue to provide aid to people.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Stacey or Amanda, do you want to chime in regards to just shedding some light on Breonna Taylor, or at least just the what happened?
Well, what frustrates me is that, like a lot of the talk that surrounds this case about how, like her ex-boyfriend being a drug dealer, and, just the commentary that like somehow she deserved it, or she did something wrong so that she deserved this. Whether she was, I mean, she wasn't, but even if she wasn't a hardworking EMT, the idea that police can come into your house and kill you with impunity is absurd. And that's why this situation is so infuriating. It's like, ultimately the police were wrong. They messed up. They messed up. And it's very frustrating to think that we have to talk about this girl's character because she deserves, she's not Black women, Black people, if we're not, perfect, or we have a history, or we have a past, that what comes to it, somehow we deserve it. That's kind of been my biggest frustration of this whole situation. People want to say, well, it's not about racism. Well, whether it's about racism or not, the police messed up. They served a no-knock warrant, which protocol says that if you have a no-knock warrant, you should have EMS on the scene in case something that happens. They did not have their body cams on, which is their own policy. Even if Kenny Walker shot, he shot a warning shot, 32 shots through a window, putting all these neighbors in danger. And then the police report was empty, saying that Brianna had no injuries when she was obviously killed in the situation. She was on the ground for 20 minutes before any medical assistance was given to her. There's so much corruption around this whole case, and it's just frustrating. And that's kind of my anger and feelings around the actual details of the case.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sister Amanda. Go ahead, Stacey.
I agree. The always when there's something like this happens, unfortunately, like we're saying, when something like this happens, because it's far often than it should be happening. The way that they tried to portray her character, I agree with Amanda 100%. They tried to make it seem as if she was deserving of what happened to her. And how, I don't care how many conversations or comments that I might post on regarding this. Some people always bring up, and it's always, I'm going to say, white people who bring up the fact that she had a drug dealer boyfriend. Well, that wasn't her boyfriend. And I'm sure Tyra can attest to this. Her current boyfriend was a stand-up guy. And, he was a good guy. And how they tried to portray, she was with a drug dealer, she deserved it. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. And I don't have any words for, how we're often depicted as Black women, that we, in so many instances, we deserve to die. It's disgusting.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just infuse in a comment from the audience really quickly, because this is an interactive discussion. But our sister Rosalind, and I'm not going to put it on the screen because it's quite big and it's going to cover your faces. But she said that narrative frustrates her too, because a lot of so-called allies are upset about this because she was a model Black woman, and the situation wouldn't have this level of attention without that narrative. That feeds this that you have to be a certain type of Black woman to matter as well. And that's also a thing of constantly trying to reiterate, she was stand up, she was this, she was great, her boyfriend wasn't bad. Her life was taken unjustly, and regardless, our lives matter. And I think that's a really powerful statement made by our sister Rose. I just wanted to kind of incorporate that in. So thank you, ladies, for sharing and giving honor and light to our sister Brianna. Z.
Yes, thank you so much for that. That was beautiful tribute to her, and it was very enlightening about who she was as a human being first. And like you all said, the narrative is just exhausting, that we have to prove that we are actually, our lives matter, that we're human, and that we should have some regard, because they have to talk about our character so often, instead of just, why can't it be that we are human beings first before anything? Why does it have to be that we have to prove that we are worthy of our lives being saved because we're so-called a good human being? So I wanted to say this question to you, Tyra. Do you feel that protesting and marching is an effective tool for change? First, we honor the fact that you are protesting along with Tamika Mallory and Linda Saysour. So I truly appreciate all that you do every day that you go out and protest. I asked this question because since the inception of the civil rights movement, we've been marching and some things have changed, but some things have remained the same. How are these protests impacting change in Louisville?
Oh, Tyra, you're on mute. Tyra.
I'm sorry.
Okay?
Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would have to say that the protests here in Louisville have been somewhat effective. There is still a lot of work and change to be done. We will be here down at that square until we get what we deserve. We have occupied what we call Brianna Taylors Park, or Injustice Square Park, which is surrounded by the police department, the courthouse, and the Louisville Metro City Hall. So we're right there in their faces every day. And since our protest, we have a new city-wide law known as Brianna Taylors Law.
Mhm.
This law eliminates no knock warrants, and it also puts some other things in place. They have to have their body cameras on 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, whatever the case may be. If it's a warrant or whatever it is, you have to have your body camera on. We pay for it. It needs to be used. And this law was established by Katura Heron. She's with the ACLU. She actually is their policy analyst. So she wrote that, and we have shirts, no more no knocks, and it got passed at the Louisville Metro with the Louisville Metro City Council members. And Attica Scott, our first and only Black female Kentucky State Representative, has also written a statewide Breonna Taylor's Law to eliminate no knock warrants for the entire state of Kentucky. There are also and I am a community co-sponsor as well. I signed on. Go visit Attica Scott, AtticaScott, the number 4, Kentucky.com, and sign on as a community. I can't think. Oh, a community co-sponsor. I'm sorry, you all. A community co-sponsor. Read up on the law for the no knock warrants, and this will be presented to this winter during the General Assembly. And that also comes with police reforms. I also want to talk about, I just want to say, a lot of people are talking about this, the settlement. But with the family settlement also came police reform. One in particular that I was an advocate for is when police officers are being called to on a call for someone that is dealing with mental health issues, they're not equipped to deal with mental health issues. They want to come out with guns ablazing. So now they will, when they have those calls, they will have a social worker that will ride along with the officer to prevent a shooting or anything to get out of hand. Someone that can deal with someone that has mental issues. Police officers also have, and there's several. These are only two that I have a little knowledge about. Given a stipend to help pay for housing for them to live in the area where they serve. I know, but a lot of police officers are fear for their safety. But if you live in the area where you serve, you're going to build relationships with people in the community, not just policing them all the time and just riding around trying to see who you can pull over or what have you. You're going to know Miss Mary down the street or Mr. George down the street or John that lives on the corner with his mom. So you're going to know your neighbors. You're going to build that relationship. So there shouldn't be any fear. And that's another thing that I have been also talking with, because I'm also in communication with LMPD and city officials and have been for about 2 months. And I said, the main thing we need is for you all to build relationships with us. We don't need you just policing us. You have to build relationships with people. Excuse me, but it's like we take 2 steps forward to be knocked 20 steps back every time they do something. But What I'm going to say, the protests here in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, have been effective. Again, there's still a lot of work, but this is a marathon, and we are just in the first mile or two. And when we first got the Breonna Taylor Law passed in Louisville, Kentucky, the no-knock warrant in Louisville, just here in the city of Louisville, I said, well, I said it because I ran track, and a mile was so long for me. And I said, okay, so we're asking for a mile, but we only got about 2 or 3 inches. We still got a long way to go, have a long way to go. So, we right now, our interim chief of police, Robert Schroeder, will be retiring. He will be retiring Thursday, will be his last day. And we have Vet Gentry, who will be taking over as interim police chief. She is an African-American female.
Okay.
And I believe that she's going to do the right thing. It's just about your department and the police officers, if they're willing to make a change. People have to buy into your goal and your end goal. So hopefully they will, because, right now I have no faith in my mayor, and I was an advocate for him, and I have no faith in him. He did not do his job. Your job, we didn't care if they sued and they got $150 million after they sued. We wanted them fired, arrested, and charged. That was it. Guess what? He can still do it. But guess what? He's not. He's going to throw it off to somebody else, just like he tried to do with that gentrification. So they're tying the Breonna Taylor incident in case to gentrification. They're trying to, gentrify our neighborhoods. And I know this for a fact. I grew up on 23rd and Maple. Houses everywhere, neighbors. We were friends and family. We had a grocery store on the corner, a beauty shop, and the barber shop on the side of the grocery store. When you ride through there now, and then they tore the grocery store down, built houses. You ride through there now, the land is flat. Nothing is hardly there because it's a flood zone.
Powerful. Yeah. I appreciate you, Sister Tyra, for bringing light and being really honest about what's happening there. I mean, we see it on the news, we feel it all over this country, but to actually go through it, and you guys living in that town and knowing what's happening, I like you guys, there's a lot of corruption. Yes. Definitely, apparently so, as we know, there's corruption throughout the police infrastructure in general in this country. So when we talk about this, we know the work that needs to be done. So we salute you guys for being on the ground and being pioneers with that, because these no-knock warrants have been an issue for a long time now. They typically for Black communities. For Black and Brown communities, absolutely. I just, before I segue, I'm gonna bring you in, Sister Amanda, in a second, but I did want to just just kind of touch base in regards to just the aspect of us as Black women, and this case. Honestly, now correct me if I'm wrong, Tyra, it was pretty much nobody really knew what happened for a minute, correct? Because of COVID and all that kind of swept the news. Wasn't Brianna's murder sort of swept under the rug? Up under the
yes. And it did. And I feel so bad, because it's like my daughter reached out to me and I was like, oh, was that your friend? But and not, it wasn't a but, it was like, oh, I didn't ask her, well, baby, how you doing? Because I'm our last day of school, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to start packing stuff up to take stuff home, because I don't know if we're going to get back in here. Worried about my students. I teach in the urban school. I teach right downtown at 16th and Broadway. And so I'm worrying about my babies, worrying about food, when they're going to eat, and we did just JCPS. So they fed those babies and families. And then I'm worrying about NTI. Oh my goodness. How are we going to do this? What's this going to look like? Are my kids going to get what they need? And it was just like, everything was just like moving so fast, and I didn't keep up with it till it was like May, when I could think, because we're out of school now. I'm out of school now. And I'm like, hey, that's right. This baby got killed. And that was my daughter's friend. And so that's when we started looking into it. And that Thursday night when that 911 tape came out, I work a second job, and I was on my way to my second job, and I couldn't be down there. So when I got home, they were still out in the streets. And I came home to my niece, my nephew, and my son. He was 15 at the time. And I said, let's go down to the protest. My niece and nephew ready to go. My son was like, oh, my leg is hurting. And I was like, your leg is hurting, like he's making up an excuse. And I finally got it out of him. He said, Mom, I'm Black and I'm tall and I'll be the first one they come after. And I did not, there's nothing I could say because he told the truth. He told the truth, and he was only 15. But because he's a Black man and he's a little tall, they would go after him. Yeah. So I sat on that couch and I didn't move. But the second night, so I'm not a day oneer. I'm a day oneer by Facebook Live because I was there the whole time. And when I got home, but the second day I was off work, I was down there. And I was down there with Kentucky State Representative Attica Scott and Shamika Tia Edison. I can't think of Pam Sheehan. We was all down there. And then Pam Sheehan's a teacher. Greg Tishner, he's a teacher. Tanya Trumbo, she's a teacher. I mean, it was a lot of teachers down there. And then we stayed. Once we got down there, it was like we never stayed. I mean, we never left. And then it was the 24-hour occupation. We occupied it for 24 hours a day. We didn't leave. We fed thousands of people a week, and they ate from sun up to sundown. They had breakfast because people was donating all kind of food, and they still donating all kind of food and water and breakfast and lunch and dinner. Then we got grills and we started grilling. And then at night, all we had was non-perishable. But when you have the homeless community that don't get anything, they'll take those non-perishables. That's we had, it was like a tent city. We had tents down there, and everybody wasn't homeless, but we did have the houseless, is what we call the houseless community down there, as well as like people like me who have homes, but we're going to stay down here. We're going to occupy this space. And we have been occupying, even when they try to get rid of us out on June 27th. And I'm not going to talk about that. That will be another incident that we'll talk about at a different time because I don't want to take away from Brianna. But they try to get rid of us then. I mean, it was, when I say we had about 50, maybe more tents down there. We may have had more because they was everywhere, all over the land down there at Injustice Square Park. And that incident happened. They promised we would be able to get back in and get our stuff. They put all of our stuff in a dump truck and told us where to go get it. Mm-hmm. The garbage. The dump.
Getting it was at the dumpster. That's where all the stuff ended up.
Yeah. And I wanted to segue, if that's okay, Amanda. I wanted to just segue into that with you in regards to just some of the psychological implications. I mean, you're a therapist there of what's happening. I mean, we hear, Tyra, we're connecting so much to what's happening. We can't, even begin to imagine for those of us that are not there on the ground. But how are we being impacted? How are Black women being impacted? What are you seeing there as a mental health professional?
Yeah, it's really interesting because like this week, once we heard Daniel Cameron come on and, not charge the police officers for Breonna Taylor's death, every one of my Black clients I've checked in with, we all talked about the same thing. Like I work with a lot of activists, like do trauma therapy with some of the activists on the ground, and just generally Black women, Black people. And it's the same sentiment: tired, exhaustion, depression. I'm hearing people talk about feeling depressed and hopeless. And, it's really interesting with this particular case because, people are coming out every day protesting and, for over 100 days. And with them investigating this case for so long, it kind of like started growing a hope in some of these protesters. People are starting to feel hope, like, hey, they're really investigating this, and like, maybe we'll get some justice, and like, hope is starting to build, going day in and day out to Injustice Square, and like, kind of when that hits, the general sentiment I'm hearing from my clients is shock, anger, and, but the trauma part of it is the most traumatic part of it is the fact that, they don't have time to breathe. They don't have time to process. From one trauma to the next, people are getting hit with pepper bullets, tear gas. Like the LMPD it seems like they've ramped up in the last couple of days since the protest. People are trying to take refuge in one of the churches, and people are, the stuff that's been happening with them arresting Attica Scott, giving people felony charges. Like recently, they arrested over 200 people. They arrested more people, more protesters have been arrested than the actual people who killed Breonna Taylor. So this trauma is like this compound trauma that people are facing, and the response, like they don't have time to grieve. Nobody's having time to grieve because they're going out there again. They don't want to give up hope. They want to keep fighting, and even people who are not on the ground, like I said, my clients, I'm hearing people say depressed. I have one client who's afraid to leave her house. She's just like, I have Black children, I have Black babies. I'm afraid. Like, it's really, really affecting our mental health. And then it's so funny because one person posted right after the verdict, I was talking to one of my friends, and she's like, and then the next day I have to, go back to work, type my emails, like another time I'm not, no justice given, but I have to go back to work and keep on acting like I'm not upset over one thing after another, George Floyd, Brianna Taylor. It brings a sense of hopelessness. People are trying, are feeling it.
Wow. Z.
It's overwhelming, to hear the things that you all are experiencing, and just to hear, the anxiety that so many of us feel, and just like you said, so many of us are exhausted. After the verdict, I literally laid in my bed. I couldn't move. I was really, really sad. And when I look into Brianna's eyes, I can see her spirit was good. Her spirit, I can really feel her spirit. And I think that's why she resonates with so many of us, because if you really, part of the reason why I want to do this podcast, because it was laid on my spirit, and I move with spirit. When spirit tells me to move, I move. And so looking into her eyes, I could see just her heart and what she meant and how she really cared for others. And like we speak about Black women just being exhausted, and we see these memes that we are the most disrespected ones in America and things of that nature. And again, that narrative is tiring also, because we are sick of hearing that. This is true. We are the most disrespected ones. When is that going to change, where we are no longer disrespected, that we are protected and that we are guided and guarded by all of us, And again, I commend you all. I'm thankful that you all are doing what you were doing for the community. You're doing things that some of us really we couldn't do, And so I commend you all. And it's great that you are speaking to the protesters, as far as their mental health and things of that nature. It really helps, for them to have someone to have a safe space to speak. I also wanted to speak with Stacy. We have a question. What are some ways we can address implicit and explicit racism in the Muslim community? What is the involvement of the Black Muslim woman in the struggle for justice? Because far too often we see maybe 2 or 3 Islamic scholars who speak about what is going on in the Black community. And it's really a slap in the face, really, because, for so many of us as Black Muslims, our parents came and converted, and they already had such a stigma and of the community that they were searching for. And so when we came to Islam, it was like, here we have an extended family and an extended community. And now you're not speaking about what is happening to us as Black Muslims, but you want us to come to the protest when you as an Arab are being discriminated against. And I know I am tired of it, because I'm not coming to your protest if you're not coming to mine and you're not standing for my people first. Before anything, I'm a Black woman before anything. And so if you can't stand with my community when we are in need, and we need for you to really vocally speak about it, then don't call us to write an article, to
Right.
come and speak and tell somebody not to look at you and discriminate against you if you can't stand with us. So I ask you, what is being done? What can we as Black women do as far as the justice in the Muslim community? And how can we really speak to our leaders to tell them that they need to do a better job at speaking against what's going on with us?
Well, first we have to understand that African American Muslims are indigenous to this country. We came over on the slave. We were forced to come here, and we, as Muslims, were on the plantations trying to, hold on to our Islam. We struggled to keep it, and some of them were forced to be Christians, and we had to find our way back to Islam. So understanding that first is that we are indigenous to this country, for one. The second thing is that, we understand explicit racism, how it comes. It's in our face. It's in we see it. But in the Muslim community, it's the implicit racism that we have to be concerned about. That's why we need to have these authentic, uncomfortable conversations in our communities. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about that I don't think it should have to be stated that every non-African American Muslim feels the certain kind of way or has these implications. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the ones that do, we have to have these conversations. It's a must. And at the same time, when we face these things, whether it be in the schools, whether it be in the masajid, whether it be just in the community as a whole, we have to recognize once we see these things, we have to call it out. And us as African Americans Muslims can no longer be apologetic about having to have these conversations either. We have to stop thinking, because for so long, I know when I came to Islam, I had to kind of look at my culture as if it's something that's wrong. My culture is something that I can't. So many things I couldn't do. And that's a whole nother podcast, right? But calling these things out, and we have to have these conversations, with our leaders. And us as African American Muslims, we have to understand we don't need anyone to speak on our behalf. We can speak for ourselves. Far too often do we have maybe seminars or gatherings when we're talking about the African American Muslim, the struggle, and they'll often call, and this is no disrespect to, the African immigrant Muslim, but we have people who are African American Muslims here, second, third, fourth generation here. So there's no reason that you don't have anyone that you can talk to and have these honest and open conversations with. So that's one thing that to try to bring to the forefront the implicit racist actions that are done within the Muslim community. To your second point, as Muslim women, first, we're Muslim, right? So what's first is dua and putting Allah first. That's first and foremost. But we have to be, when we see these, we have to be intentional about the circles that we joined. And we have to stop being so afraid to talk about what's happening to us. And we need to be very specific to the situations that happen to us. Whether it be, an example is our children suffer from this too, in the community. And, this behavior is learned, right? So if you have a child in the community and, a Black Muslim child shakes the hand of an Arab Muslim child, and the Arab Muslim child says, oh, now I need to wash my hand. That's a problem, right? That's a problem. So we need to have these conversations, and we can't be afraid anymore to have these conversations. I think that's the biggest problem, and admit that it's there. Islam is perfect, but people are not. So these implicit situations with racism within the Muslim community, we have to address and we have to recognize and acknowledge that they exist.
Powerful. Thank you, Stacey. I appreciate you speaking truth to power. I know you've been really on the ground and you've been trying to keep people grounded, the Muslim community out there. And I know, Amanda, you're doing the work as well in regards to these issues. And one of the things I think is so powerful is that we stay connected, human hearts to human hearts, regardless of faith, regardless of color of our skin, that we stay human heart to human heart. We stay connected. Mm-hmm. Our struggle is the same. The Black woman's struggle is the same. We have the same history. We have the same set of traumas that we're trying to change the same narrative. So for us as Muslim women, Black Muslim women in particular, connecting our hearts to hearts like Breonna Taylor is so fundamentally important. And we don't let faith or anything like that become barriers when it comes to human life and our human experience. So I appreciate you deeply for that. Sisters, I'm going to bring in a question. We are going to wrap up. We definitely want to get people out of here for those that want to engage in the debate tonight. But I do want to ask the question. I hear the transcripts are coming out. Is this true? Tyra, do you?
Yes, they will be. They will come out tomorrow.
They will be.
Yeah, and we don't want them edited. We want the straight facts. We are. I'm not. Okay. We want the truth because he tried to not present those transcripts or be transparent, but there was a juror who appealed that 16-page document, and it came out in the news. I got the document about 7:20 something last night. And by the 10 o'clock news, he was saying that they will be released on Wednesday.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to infuse this in. I try to also look at this from a bigger picture, like what can I do for Black women? And I do want to make sure that we honor this question as it relates. Like I said, Brianna is very symbolic to our experience. What can I do for Black women is the question. Anyone can take this.
I think I'll start. One of the things you could do for Black women, we've talked about this question before in some of the circles I'm in. It's like, what can you do for the Black Muslim? What can you do for the Black woman? And one of the things is, don't let other people set the narrative for us, who we are. We just like everyone else stands individually representing themselves. Stop grouping us into this, this narrative that one are angry, because we very well may be angry, but that's not that's not who we are. We're strong, but we don't need help. That's so not true. And consider the trauma that has been. A couple, last season podcasts talked about the trauma of the African American period. Consider that. Consider the trauma that has been passed down from the plantation till now. I mean, it's every time we turn on the TV, every time we turn on the news, it's something that's happening to first of all, a human being. Human beings are being slaughtered and murdered in the streets, in their own beds, in their own homes. We must come together and realize that, African American women are pillars in the community. We're educated. The same thing. We're human beings. So that's one thing you can do for us I implore everyone to do any research and find one African American woman that holds we are multifaceted, from education to the medical system, to judicial system. Anywhere you want to look, athletes, we're there. We're there. We're represented, and it's heartbreaking sometimes that we have to always be negative. It's always a negative connotation when it comes to the Black woman. I don't care if it's an African American Muslim. I don't care if it's a non-Muslim. I don't care who it is. It's always something that's negative. And also African American women, Black women, we need to need to hold ourselves in honor. Stop letting these negative connotations, and we're ingesting them, and we're making it seem like this is our own, this is who we are. No, that's not. You say who you are. You set your own narrative. Don't let anyone else do it. So once we stop doing that, I think we'll be okay. But I think we're at a pivotal point in the country right now, in the world right now, and we got to strike while the iron's hot. And no, don't let off the gas. We got to keep going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stacey. Amanda, how do parents talk to their young children about this subject? You're on mute, sis.
Sorry. About this topic, with children are so resilient and so capable of understanding. This is a topic, you just teach them about the injustices going on. I'm seeing children at protests, family-friendly protests. I've seen children, out there being a part of this movement. And I feel like it's important for parents to tell your kids what's going on. Explain to them how this injustice has happened, what racism is, and just be honest with them. Be direct. They are so they can understand.
Thank you so much. And we're going to be finalizing this discussion here, but I did just want to ask a culminating question to all of you ladies. As you guys mentioned, we deserve the same level of protection as everyone else. What must be done to change this narrative and protect our women from brutality, from murder, and from disrespect? I know that's a big and heavy one. Yeah. But it's okay if I start with you, Sister Tyra. Your final thoughts about this.
Yes. Well, okay. So we, as in women, don't need to do anything but ignore everyone who tells us how to act, how to think, what to say, and what we should accept. We need the world to raise humans to respect each other, especially women. So continue to do what we're doing now, stand in solidarity, and fight the injustices against Black people. Black women, the brutality, murder, and respect. So, and instead, I always say this too. We don't want you to sympathize with us. Mm-hmm. We want you to empathize with us. So put yourself in our shoes. It's kind of hard to do, but you can learn that strategy, because that's something that we teach our students at school when we're going through the program of social skills lessons that we have every morning. Be empathetic. I don't want you to sympathize with me. I want you to empathize with me. Know my struggle. Know who I am as a woman, a strong Black woman, and appreciate that. Mm-hmm. I think people fear what they don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when you don't educate yourself and you don't know, you fear them. So that's, that they'll put you in this box and this is their narrative for you. And I think that's what happened. My brother also, he's a Muslim, the Nation of Islam. He was trying to tell me something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. And it says, I'm going to read it. It says, a nation determines if another nation is civilized by how they treat their women. Maybe we need to start, saying that daily to our men, to ourselves. I think we need to start saying that. A nation determines if another nation is civilized by how they treat their women. Those are very strong words and important words, need to be memorized.
Thank you, my sister Tyra. And Sister Amanda, just a few summative words about changing the narrative.
I feel like Black women, we need to continue to shine, because we are out here shining, and we are allow the Black women in your life, in your family, to be who they want to be, shine, and be vulnerable when they want to be vulnerable. Like the whole idea of like Black women, trust Black women, of course, trust us and listen to us, because we do know what we're talking about. But at the same time, it's okay for us to be vulnerable, to not be strong all the time. We're dynamic, and to try to put us in this box is unrealistic. And so, the best thing we can do for a Black woman is to listen to her, let her make her own narrative, allow her to shine, however that looks, whatever that looks like.
Thank you so much, my dear sister. And Stacy, just a few short, brief words about changing the narrative.
Well, I'm just going to come from the perspective of the Black Muslim woman. We have many examples of strong and women in Islam, and if we visit the life of Hajar and her struggles and her patience, if we refer to these women, we know the blueprint. We know exactly what we need to do. And these types of lessons that we have, we can share with our non-Muslim family members and friends, Black women. So I think doing that, we know the blueprint. We know what to do.
Absolutely powerful, my sister. And Z, any final words? We got to get people out of here. They want to watch this debate, but
Absolutely. I just want to honor you all for your words, for your testimony, just giving us so many facts about this case, and just all that you are, to celebrate you, Black women. I'm happy that we were able to create a space for you all to speak, to say how you are feeling, how you are maneuvering during these times. And I pray that we were helpful for other Black women, that we encourage you all to really, like you said, like, let our light shine, trust Black women, protect Black women. And yes, it's very true that a nation should be judged by how they are treating us Black women, that we are no longer will be murdered, that we will not be raped, we will not be judged by anything, that we will be held up, because we are truly the backbones of this civilization and this world. But we're tired, and we need someone to hold our hand also. Like in our star where it says, just being so independent is a sign of trauma, and a lot of us as Black women are super independent because we're afraid to allow that independence to go to someone else and really rely on them. And we just need to feel like we can be vulnerable and be okay, and just that someone has our back also. So I pray that we really work together and continue to come together and hold each other up. May we continue to love one another and shine and honor our women.
Thank you so much, Ziada. Thank you, guys. Thank you for honoring this space, the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. I am so completely honored to be in your company. I am literally at your feet. I'm soaking up all of your knowledge and all of your awareness of our plight as Black women. Thank you, Sister Tyra, for making the time to be here. I know you're on the ground, and I know you've been through so much, and that's a topic for another day, of some of your experiences out there on the ground. Thank you so much. May you continue to be a voice and a fighter for our people and for us. Our hearts are connected to you, dear sister. I honor you and I salute you. Thank you for being here. Sister Amanda, thank you for your work. We cannot survive without people like you, giving honor to our mental and psychological and emotional well-being. I honor and salute you. Thank you for taking the time to share your heart with us tonight. May you be blessed. And my lovely Stacy Lewis, my freedom fighter girlfriend right there. I appreciate you so much in more ways than one. Thank you for always connecting your heart to mine. Thank you for being such a phenomenal, supportive friend and human being. Thank you for fighting and speaking for the Black Muslim woman. I honor and see you. I love you. And Ziada, I'm trying to be like turbo with these. Ziada, thank you so much for your leadership and for your insight. I always say you are the angel that Allah, the Creator, sends to me each time. And I truly honor you. And I pray for you every time at the end of my prayers. I see you, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience for connecting. Thank you. I hear all the gratitude. I'm going to say this really quick from Mandy. Thank you so much for hosting this conversation. It is an honor to listen to and witness the profound wisdom shared here. I take to heart as a white woman the imperative to challenge any space or person that hinders Black women from setting their own narratives, being their authentic and vulnerable selves, and shining in their multifaceted identities. My humble gratitude. Thank you, Sister Mandy. Thank you to all of the audience members. We love you. We see you. Now go and watch your debate and all of that and enjoy the night. And we give honor to our sister Brianna Taylor, and we hope that there's ease brought to the family during this time. Thank you again for tuning in, ladies.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast episode. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook Live. We also have audio podcast streaming on all audio platforms. We are on dopemuslimwoman.com. If you want to financially support us, there's an option to do that there. We will be launching season 3 October 14th. So please come back. We're going to be launching with Drea Dinor. She's also a freedom fighter in herself, and she'll be providing some healing music and talking about forgiveness and redemption. And we look forward to connecting with all of you guys. Take care and good night. Assalamu alaikum.